Hey, everybody. I see familiar faces out there.
Hi.
Hello. So glad that everybody's here. We're getting ready to get started. We're going to let everyone just enter the room for just another minute, and then we will get started. But in the meantime, if you would play along at home, there's a little text box at the bottom of your screen that says chat. And what I'd love for you to do is just chat to everyone who's here, and everybody tell us one fun fact about yourself. I'll start.
Jan, I'm listening and I'm not on Zoom.
Listen on. I don't know who you are, but I'm glad you're here.
Carol Trostclair. So I'm listening.
All right. And as we get started here, in a few moments, our tech guru, Robert, will manage all the mutes and unmutes. And we are just glad that you guys are all here with us. So we've got a pigeon racing woman. Joelle never learned to parallel park. Lisa Tompkins won a motocross trophy. Dee Dee Luke won a home version of Survivor, which is a much bigger deal than what you might think. Lisa Broussard took a belly dancing class. Kristen Shea, oh my, got run over by a car as a kid. I'm glad you're okay and with us, Kristen. Kimberly Newstrom played a tambourine in a band, and a former long distance runner with Anita Begno. Way to go, girl. And Robin Blackwell, I did not see this coming. You were a bouncer for a punk band. Who knew? All right, and then while everyone's still gathering, let's do one more thing. If you don't mind, just in the chat, tell one thing that you're grateful for that is an alliteration with your first name. So something, for me, it would be something that starts with a J, like I'm really grateful for jam. I love some toast and jam. So what are you grateful for? Kelly Kaufman, it is a fact that you do a great share karaoke version of yourself, if you could turn back time, for sure. Kristen, I like it. Sulema, you have a harder challenge than most. Okay, Robert, if you want to go ahead, and you can, as far as I'm concerned, mute us all, and we will go ahead and get ready. And we have a word from the advocate, so we'll get started there.
There is a single line of thought that, when nurtured and adhered to with relentless constancy, turns a good writer into a great journalist. What if there's more to the story? For us, it's a notion that punctuates the end of each day, the beginning of the next, and many times the hours in between. It means verifying more facts, seeking more sources, more digging, more phone calls, more coffee. But it's what we live for. We believe it's our job to provide the most comprehensive information without bias and with piercing clarity on the events, occurrences, and issues that matter to you. Because it's not just about what happened or who was there. It's about the causes, the consequences, and the sparks of change that may come from it. So we dive deeper. We connect the dots and cover every angle to give you the power to own the role you play in building a better community. For the communities we serve, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Acadiana, we're more than breaking news. We don't stop at headlines, because to us, there's more to our story.
afternoon, everyone. I'm Judy Terzotis, President and Publisher of the Acadiana Advocate, and it truly is an honor to sponsor this very important workshop. So thanks to all of you that organized it. I mean, we recognize as a news organization, part of our mission is to really, beyond the hard-hitting journalism, is to connect the dots and to help a community thrive. And so I'm very confident that at the end of this session, you're going to come away with something very valuable that will help you. So enjoy, and thanks again for letting us be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Judy, and thank you to the Advocate team. They have just been a pleasure to work with. And if I could give you one little housekeeping tip to everyone first, if you want to look at up in the top right-hand corner, it says Gallery View or Speaker View. And if you can change that to Speaker View, this whole experience will it'll make your brain happier is the bottom line. You won't be jostling around like a Brady Bunch gone wild. So thanks not only to the Advocate, but also to all the presenters today. Everyone involved in this is a volunteer doing it out of the goodness of their heart, hoping for something good. And we're just grateful to everyone involved, especially Kristen Askelson, who's the managing editor of the Advocate, Aileen Bennett, graphic artist, creative extraordinaire, and Casey Ardwan and Robert Young. Thank you guys so much for doing all sorts of work behind the scenes. Yes. So, on the advice of a New York taxi driver, I once booked a flight on an airline called Air Afrique. I flew to a place on Air Afrique called Burkina Faso in West Africa. It was an adventure that would have never happened except for a conversation with that taxi driver. I love talking to taxi drivers and random people in general. That advice of never talking to strangers just did not take with me. Conversations and connecting with people I would never otherwise meet have broadened my world. In the face of the pandemic, the absence of that opportunity to run into people here or there has affected my brain. I'm hungry for interaction outside what I refer to as my inner circle. I've also had moments in the last few months when I felt stuck, unsure how long this whole thing will last and exactly how I will make it through. So I deliberately started trying to create opportunities to have meaningful exchanges with people outside my normal circle of friends and relations. And those exchanges have been good for my heart and soul and inspired me to want to invite others to become unstuck. Sometimes that just takes turning left when we would normally have gone right. Or in times of COVID-19, perhaps it's going on a walk around the block instead of heading to the sofa. 11 amazing women have agreed to speak to you today to offer ideas about things you can do or try, or ways to look at your situation or out your window differently. Each woman will speak about 4 minutes, and no one expects every presentation to resonate with you at the same level. But you are here, and so are we. And there's something really powerful in that. Something here could help make the world a better place. Maybe it's just for you or your family, your friends, your community, or beyond. We will be here to cheer you on, however big or small of a step you want to take. Before I give you the basic housekeeping tips, let me emphasize that this is an experiment that all of these folks just glommed onto, and I'm grateful for their sense of adventure with me. This is a time about sincerity, not about a slick presentation. So I'm asking each of you to approach this adventure from a place of not waiting to be picked. If you have a question, ask it in the chat. If you love what someone says or shares, make a note, give a thumbs up, say so in the chat. Ask any questions that you have of panelists in the chat throughout the session, and all panelists are encouraged to answer. We encourage you to take notes. We also, as I mentioned earlier, encourage you to put your screen on speaker mode, as it will make the viewing process go more smoothly. And you won't have to move the Brady Bunch pictures around so much. But if they're blocking something, you can still move them around on your screen. So just remember that. Look for the suggestions or the ideas that each speaker offers, and remember that one way to get unstuck is to try something new. Toward the end of the session, we're going to have a breakout session that will give each of you the opportunity to connect with other women and discuss your takeaways from this hour. Without further ado, let me introduce Cheryl Taylor Bowie, owner of Right Angle Advertising and a feng shui expert. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for joining us.
Can you hear me now? All right. Thank you all for showing up today. I've been getting a lot of calls about feng shui. It seems during this pandemic, a lot of us are feeling helpless or maybe hopeless or even powerless. You've done all the right things. You continue to work hard, doing your best. Somehow you just can't get past a certain obstacle. Maybe it's your health or a relationship or your career. Feng shui is one more thing that you can do when you're up against that roadblock, when you're in something like a pandemic, where you feel like nothing is in your control. It's a way to kind of reclaim your power, and it's a power that you get from the attention you give to your environment. So the words feng and shui mean wind and water. They're Chinese words. And they were meant to refer to the effect that wind and water has on our environment. And if you look at the Mississippi River, it has had a tremendous impact on the land over the years, the way it's moved and shifted. Or the Grand Canyon is a beautiful example of the effects of wind and water. But in ancient China, they discovered that a home built in a particular direction and built during a particular time, a certain year, tended to have a certain kind of energy. And they found that similar houses built in a similar age, facing northeast or southwest, whatever direction, tended to have similar patterns of energy. And over time developed a system that lets you affect some change in your home, in the interior, the exterior, or your office. It's an amazing process that when I first learned about it, I shook my head and thought it was the craziest thing I'd ever heard of, but I began trying it. And that's what I hope that you get from this today, are some suggestions to use at home and to use at work, but to claim your power and to get a sense of at least some control over your environment. Feng shui is not a religion. Some people think it's so bizarre. We don't have anything in our culture that's similar. So I like to remind people that feng shui is an art. It's the art of placement. And you could compare it to Japanese flower arranging or to yoga, an art in that kind of a sense. It's got several schools of thought, several schools of feng shui, form school, an ancient Chinese school, and a more contemporary one that comes from, or it's credited with coming from, one of my first teachers, who was Lin Yun. And the reason it caught on, I think, in the United States is because it's quick and easy to learn. There's no compass involved. It's very basic and simple. You simply apply a grid to the floor plan of your home. And here's the basic grid that we use in feng shui. You'll see the bottom line, the baseline there, has those little hash marks indicating where your front door might be. Now, my front door is in the center of my house. A lot of your homes may be the same way, or your front door may be off to the left or off to the right. Can you imagine this grid aligning with the front of your home? So if you're standing in your front door, the back left corner of your house is the wealth area. And the back right corner is marriage and relationships. And the center, middle third along the back would be fame. So basically you're dividing your house into 9 equal segments, and these symbolic and literal aspects of your life are labeled for that area of your home. Now this grid also applies to the property that your house sits on, and it can even apply to your desktop. So this is where it gets really interesting. If you go home and look at what you've placed in the wealth area of your home, what you've placed in the relationship area of your home, and make some change. Clear the clutter, get things up off of the floor. There are many tools we use in feng shui, and you will probably hear about wind chimes, but there's no magic to a wind chime. It's simply about adding sound, color, sound, scent, texture. All of those things affect the environment and the space. Clear the clutter, get things off the floor, rearrange the furniture, do what your intuition tells you works and feels right. It's a great way to claim your space, claim your power, and feel like there's one more thing that you can do, because you do have control of your space and you can use it to energize and to rejuvenate you. How am I doing on time, Jan?
You got about 30 more seconds.
All right. Are there any questions that I need to answer now, or are we going to save that for later?
People can write them in the chat, and I'm encouraging panelists to answer them in the chat, and we may have some time at the end of the program for some other questions that we can come back to.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. I have some reorganizing to do because I do not like what's in the wealth corner of my house. So that's really useful. Next up, I would like to introduce Dr. Tanisha Mallory.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to see such a full virtual room of women that are really interested in building each other up. I was really thankful to Jan for inviting me to be a part of this, because I think I got from her invitation a real sincere appreciation for my perspective. And so when I reflect on the value for that perspective and what I could provide to this discussion, I find myself thinking about 2 viruses, COVID-19, the one that's very much in front of all of our minds and that we're thinking about on a daily basis, but also racism. And I heard Kamala Harris define racism as a virus just last night, and it really resonated with me because it really defined a lot of what I've been dealing with the past 6 months and the magnified effect of both of these viruses on my own personal experience. So I've been thinking a lot and engaging a lot because of the role that I play at the university as the Chief Diversity Officer, thinking a lot about engaging with people who don't look like me and don't have the experiences that I've had. And I think that in light of the George Floyd killing, in light of Breonna Taylor's injustice, and in light of all the others that have really brought to light in the past few months, I've seen a flurry of energy around wanting to have discussions related to race and social justice and the role that each individual, each one of us in this room can play in helping to build a better community. And so when I thought about what message I would want to share with you, it really is about embracing difference. And how do we do that? I think I've been approached by so many people who want to be able to do something. People of all backgrounds, all races, all experiences, who really want to play a part in helping to make our world better. And I think if I had to boil it down to one piece of advice, it would be reach out to someone who has a very different experience than your own. I've had an opportunity in the last few months that have been really powerful to me, an opportunity to sit down with people who are the farthest from me and my experience and my background. And I think because of the work that I do, I'm seen as kind of a trusted resource and a person who can provide kind of an objective view on all the issues that plague our nation. It's been really powerful when I encounter someone who, you know, is just very open, but very uncomfortable, and is willing to live in that discomfort and to say, you know what, I don't understand the issues here, and I don't understand why systemic racism is a problem, or I don't understand what my role in it is and how I can make a difference. I'm just one person, right? But at the same time, I've shared personal experiences about, you know, microaggressions that I face on a daily basis, or, you know, real decisions that my family members have made that, you know, are based in their own identity, and just having to reshape how they exist in the world so that they can live safely and have equal opportunity for success, whether that's in the educational sphere, whether that's in their career life, whether that's driving down the street in their car and not wanting to get pulled over by police. And so I think what's been really enlightening to me is the power in having those one-on-one conversations with people who have a different experience, and being able to build those authentic relationships with others, because I think that will help us all come to a sense of purpose and a sense of agency in how we can make a difference in such a systemic problem. But I think each of us does have a role to play in that. So I encourage you to embrace difference and develop those authentic relationships. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanisha. Next, we will have Miss Cherie Hebert. Cherie is the owner of BBR Creative, and is a super creative and just a super friend. Cherie.
Thank you, Jan. I really enjoyed listening to Dr. Mallory, and I really loved the part about just reaching out to people who are different from you and having an authentic conversation. So thank you for that, because I enjoyed it. I'm actually want to just share a personal story with you rather than giving any one piece of particular advice. And it's what I've been facing through this whole COVID thing. And I'm going to tell you a little story about my business, because I've been in business for 23 years and I own a full service advertising and marketing firm, like Jan just said. And the category that I fall into for today's talk is on business management. And I know not everybody out there is a business owner, but I'm kind of speaking to those of you who may be, and maybe those of you who aren't can get a little something from this story. Last fall, my business lost our biggest contract. It was a state contract, and we had worked with them for over 5 years. And that account came up for bid, and someone else, another agency, won that piece of work. And I lost about 30% of my revenue through that activity. And it was a really tough time to, face. So last fall, October, November, December, January were all rough times. And I was already trying to face how I was going to make cutbacks and break even during that time period. And then all of a sudden, here comes COVID, right? And I was like, oh my goodness gracious, I'm really not sure how I'm going to face this. And so when we talk about, when one door closes, I'd like to say many doors actually open, not just one. I had to close the business and send everybody home. And I was very worried about that, right? Because we had never worked remotely before, and I have like 20 employees, and I was just worried about so many things. I was worried about the future of the business, and first of all, I was worried about whether or not I was going to be able to afford to keep these employees And if I let them go, how are they gonna, were they gonna lose their health insurance? And what if somebody, you know, got COVID and got sick and they didn't have health insurance? And I worried about laying people off. I was really worried about whether my clients were going to disappear, right? Like, were they really going to need communication services during this time? It feels like marketing sometimes is one of the first things to go. So I really worried about that. And during the month of March, when we all went home and the door of this building that you see closed, I was sincerely worried. And worried about maintaining the morale and the culture of our business, because nobody was together anymore. And a lot of the work we do is very collaborative. In order to create new ideas, we collaborate a ton. So I was kind of concerned about all of that. And so I looked to guidance, right? Like, I was reaching out and saying, okay, what should I do? So I decided that my approach would be, I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to focus on the work at hand. Let's focus on the clients we have and the things we have to do. And then I sought guidance from others. I sought guidance from, you know, the CPA and my lawyer and my banker and my friends and my employees, and got opinions. And it's kind of like what Tanisha was saying a little while ago. I actually reached out to people I didn't know, and I called it COVID connections. And I basically tried to virtually build relationships with people. And I asked a lot of questions about how were they handling things. I participated in a lot of these virtual videos. And from that, I was open to advice. And from that door closing, many doors opened. And the many doors that opened were all of my employees. This is a picture of myself and two of my key people who help run the agency. And then a lot of all of our folks went home and they worked in small teams. These are pictures of all of them in front of their front doors. And we gained a lot during this period of time. Fortunately, and it's pure luck. I do not attribute it to anything else. My client makeup tended to be the type of businesses that needed our services. Lafayette Healthcare, I have a lot of food clients, and everybody was eating rice. So that was great. And so, and miraculously, there were people who even called us for new business, and I got new business during this time. And each one of our people got to spend more time with their families. They got to have more time for exercise during lunchtime. They eliminated the time that they lost in transport. So I really think that so many wonderful things came out of this, even though I was very worried at one time. And I think it's just being open to change. And even though I'm getting older and it's a little harder to be open to change, you're not as naive about change, I'm really open to change. And my message to all of you is that if we're not changing, we're not growing. And we should always be open to change, because sometimes there's some really good things that happen because of it. And so my message is one of hope and one of persistence and resilience. And so I think that that's what comes sometimes from a lot of uncertainty and challenge.
Thank you so much, Cherie. Appreciate that. We're just rocking right through them. You guys are great. It's a lot to take in, and I hope you guys are taking notes at home. So our next presenter is Miss Sarah Berthelot. She's the president and CEO of the Louisiana Association of United Way, and one of the kindest humans you'll ever meet in your life. So take it away, Sarah.
Well, thank you, Jan, and it's great to see everyone. There's a lot of familiar faces, and I'm just so honored to be here with you this afternoon. And already I'm so inspired by the speakers. So I have the great pleasure of talking about love. And we've all heard love conquers all. Like, I truly believe that. Sometimes it's hard, but I truly believe that. And love plays a role in all parts of our lives, our faith, our families, our friends, our jobs, and the grace that we give ourselves. And love is not always easily inserted in conversations, but we're going to insert it today. There's a time, this is a time, I think more than any, that love is needed more than ever. Love helps us, I think, move from a place of coping to hoping. And as we navigate this pandemic and all the noise in the world, I mean, the world is pretty noisy right now. It is easy to lose sight of the foundation that gives us peace, joy, and a feeling of belonging. And that foundation can be found in love. So all of us have a special and unique way of sharing love. I ask each one of you in the coming days to reflect on how you share love with others, specifically at this time, how you enable love to be received from others, and how you're loving yourself. This pandemic has brought me quiet moments. It's either working harder than maybe I've worked in a long time, to quiet moment. And there's less options to move about. There's a need to remain socially distanced. And sometimes these moments I feel lonely because of my longing to be with friends and family freely and in person. I can easily fall into a feeling of lonesomeness for a mode of living that was just available to us last Christmas. What gets me through these moments is to redirect myself to a time of prayer and service to others, which fills me up and it gives me hope. I also take time to reflect on how I'm loving others around me. I offer some quiet, perhaps understated or obvious ways to share love with you today, not to offer you any new creative ideas or magical solutions, but to help reflect on how easy it is to share love, to overcome feelings of despair and worry. Some ways to share love is to bring together your immediate families for some true quality time, uninterrupted time. To call friends and family members and provide them your entire attention. To write a letter to someone and extend a compliment that you've been sitting on for a while, that person really needs to hear. To deliver food or other essentials to someone in need, perhaps someone suffering from an illness or a loss. To plant flowers in someone's honor, could be in your backyard or to deliver to theirs. And to offer up prayers for others, to forgive, to apologize, to honor others. It's all very simple, and it's amazing how love can shove out feelings of hopelessness and fears of change, especially change that is beyond our control. I also try to leverage the quiet moments to reflect on my own needs, taking inventory of how I'm feeling physically, emotionally, mentally. And I may reflect on how hard I pushed that this week, or how have I fed myself okay? Have I compromised too much to keep it all in balance? And do I need to give myself some grace? Am I getting too critical on something? As women, I think it's so easy to prioritize others around you before your own needs. So we love ourselves by reflecting and listening to what we hear deep within. I'd like to conclude with an ultimate definition of love that comes from Corinthians. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails. And so now I turn it over to Dr. Mary Farmer Kaiser. Thank y'all so much for giving me a chance to share with you today.
Mary, we can't hear you if you're
I'm
talking.
coming.
All right.
Thank you. So I love to learn new things. And in every one of my roles, I embrace learning. I dig deep. It's who I am. As a historian, there is nothing I love more than being in an archive, untying the red string that holds papers together, unfolding the documents, and figuring out how the information connects to tell a story. As a professor, I love learning with my students. I love responding to them with, I don't know. What do you think? Let's figure it out together. As a mentor, I love learning what matters to others. These days, this means learning about biology with PhD students at UL, more often than not. I've learned about electric fish. I have learned about prairie dogs, brown pelicans, even growing radishes in space, because these things matter to the young women who matter to me. As a mom of two way too smart kids, I am challenged to keep learning too. When I was pregnant, I dug deep to learn what to expect when you're expecting. After my son was born, I researched best practices on everything. And I can still tell you the research on how to get your children to sleep. And when my then third grader asked me not to make him go to school, I just wanted to strangle the teacher and the school counselor who responded to my concerns with, well, this is just the age when kids stop liking to learn. Needless to say, we made a change. Over the last several months, it has been my love of learning that has helped me, but it hasn't been easy. I know here's when you're expecting me to recruit you to grad school. I'm the dean of the graduate school at UL Lafayette. And let's just get that out of the way right now. This is a great moment to go to grad school. There are so many opportunities to learn online right now. Harvard offers free short courses on everything from birth of opera to lessons from Ebola. And closer here at home at UL, we have great grad programs, even an online MBA program with a new start every few months. So if you want to go back to school, undergrad or grad, talk to me. I'm happy to help you figure out your next steps. But let's put the formal learning aside, because it's the informal learning that has helped me cope, and more importantly, hope. So what I have found personally back in March and April are just a blur to me in crisis management. It's digging deep and doing the research that has calmed me. I dug deep. I wanted to know everything about COVID-19, and I wanted the quality stuff. I kept up with the latest developments. As a scholar, I loved seeing the scientific method at work. I still love it. But my traditional ways of learning really weren't helping me cope, or certainly not helping me hope. What it took for me to get through was rejecting the familiar and getting out of my comfort zone. So I stopped listening to the news all the time. I tried something new. I started listening to books all the time. Audible has been an incredible friend. When I was too tired to find a new book myself, I trusted somebody else. I embraced new genres. And this might come as a surprise, but I have always hated biographies. Suddenly, I can't get enough of them. And I've done the same with music. Find something new, try something new. I also have made time to read, to learn every day. My favorite recently, a book called The Soul of an Octopus. I never knew I wanted to know anything about octopuses, and it is octopuses. I have learned that. But now I want to know everything about them, and I desperately want to touch one. So embrace the habit of always reading something, and hopefully something to learn. Be intentional too about what you watch and why. Plopping down in front of the television is the familiar. I enjoy, don't get me wrong, a good binge watch, but whatever I watch right now is either one, with someone I love, or two, is something of quality. Hopefully it's both. Although I admit the Kissing Booth 2 was not, but spending 2 hours with my daughter gave me all the hope I needed in that moment. The last thing I want to leave you with is surround yourself with others who are ready to learn new things. Life is too short to spend with people who are sure they know everything already. Befriend people who ask questions, who are different than you, who are creative, and who know more than you. After all, if you are the smartest person in the room, you are in the wrong room. So, starting today, find the right room. Commit to learning something new. It'll help you cope, but more importantly, it'll restore your hope.
Thank you so much, Mary. We appreciate you being with us today. Next, we have all the way from Kansas City, Sulema Bassam, and she's going to shake it up some. Sulema is an old friend of mine from El Paso, Texas, and I'm turning it over to you now, Sulema. Don't forget to unmute.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Jan, I just want to thank you for letting me be part of this amazing group of women, powerful, and I've already learned so much. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Sulema Bassam, and I've been a hairdresser for about 16 years in the past. And as a little girl, I grew up in a hair salon. My mom was always the salon owner. So I have a few tips today. I'm going to teach you how to do a root touch-up at home during COVID times, okay? And so this is Hannah Bassam. This is my daughter, and she's going to be my model today.
So to start, I want to have a conversation with my mom and ask her some questions that I would have if I was doing a root touch-up on myself. So to start, where would I go to buy color for my hair?
Okay, there's several places that you can go.
Okay.
So you can go to a Walgreens, a CVS, a Walmart, and I'm very familiar with the line Clairol, so, I mean L'Oreal. And so if you could just pick up a box of L'Oreal, you can't go wrong. So the other thing you could do, if you have a local Sally's Beauty Supply, you can go there because they can help you with choosing your color. Most of the employees there are they're licensed hairdressers. So, and today I had a phone call from my sister, and she told me for those people that don't have enough money or have to touch up their roots every 2 weeks, you can go to Dollar General and she gets Revlon. So there's another tip.
So once I'm in the store, how do I know what to buy, what color to buy?
Well, what you want to do during COVID times is you want to stay very close to your natural color of your roots. So I would stay with 2 shades darker or 2 shades lighter, or you can ask your hairdresser in advance what color does he or she use on you, and you can go from there. Okay.
So once I buy the color and I go home, what do I do next?
Okay, so right over here, I bought some L'Oreal today. You get all this in the box. So what you want to do is you want to apply the color into your peroxide, and you want to shake, take the tip off, and you're good to go. This is your conditioner for later, and it comes with 2 gloves, okay? So what I do at home is I use my Redken, because I'm a professional, and I can get Redken, and I do like a tube of color, equal parts with my 20 volume peroxide. So there's my little measuring cup. And what I do is I want to put both ingredients in a bowl, and I want to mix it around like you're mixing eggs, okay? And you get it nicely mixed until you get like a creamy consistency. And then of course you want to put on your gloves because it will burn a little. This is just for roots, remember. Okay. And then I'm going to demonstrate I've got a very, very easy way to do this. So I have Hannah sectioned up in 4 different sections already. To make this very easy, can you hold the ball for me? What you want to do is you want to go from forehead as you apply all the way down to the nape area, okay? This is just conditioner, just because we're practicing here. And then you want to take it from ear to ear, okay? You want to apply a lot of color during this time. So you form an X, okay? And then step 2, part 2, if you want to go around the hairline, okay, completely, all the way around the head. So this would be part 2. And if you do this every single time, you'll never miss a spot, okay? All the way around, completely, okay? When you're done with that, you take step 3 would be, I always start at the front of the head because this is where I usually have all my gray. So you take little sections like so, and you paint like you're painting a picture. You paint, and you take another section, and know that you're almost there. Don't get discouraged. Just your roots. We're just doing roots. If you have highlights, you want to make sure that you just barely touch your roots so you don't mess up your highlights, okay? You want those highlights to last for a while because that's something you probably cannot do at home yourself, or you shouldn't. So once you're done with this one section, you move on to section part 2, 3, and 4, and you're all done. And what you want to do after this is, if you want to freshen up your color, you leave it on for like 25 to 30 minutes if you have a lot of gray, and then you want to run it through the rest of your hair for 5 minutes, or you want to jump in the shower and you want to take a little bit of water and shampoo the whole thing in, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then it will just touch up the rest of your hair. And you can shampoo like maybe 3 times and then condition. And then you're good to go, and you will feel younger, beautiful, and vibrant once again during COVID times. Thank you.
Sulema and Hannah, I love it. Thank you so much. And I have to tell you guys, I watched little Hannah grow up, and I've got tears in my eyes because she's just so grown up. And she is now the voice in Spanish of the Kansas City Chiefs, as well as having just completed law school. So I'm so proud of you, Hannah. Way to go.
Thank you. I'm so inspired by all these videos. So this is awesome.
Thank you both. Thank you both.
Thanks, Jen.
All right. Next, we've got Dr. Dee Dee Luke right here in Lafayette, Louisiana. Dee Dee, take it away.
Yay! Hi, can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dee Dee. As she said, I'm a family doctor as well as a hospice and palliative care doctor. I'm a wife and a mom of 3, and I just became an empty nester for the 2nd time after my kids just returned to school and their lives after being home for 5 months. I love the 5 months, but I'm glad they're back to their schools. I've always been driven to be the best mom, wife, friend, and doctor that I could be. And as a result, I was never off. I always had one of my hats on, or 2 or 3. And I never put on the hat for myself. So in March of this year, at the beginning of the pandemic, I got sick and I was quarantined alone for 2 months. My husband and my kids took great care of me in the house and cooking and cleaning. I had friends and patients bring me food, magazines, even holy water. One of my best friends and neighbors brought me a new battery for my thermometer when it went out, and I panicked, and my husband brought the wrong battery, and I didn't have the heart to tell him. So I had to not only learn how to accept help, but I had to learn how to ask for help. And if you know me, that is very hard. and as I've cared for my COVID patients since then, I've noticed the same trait in all of my female patients. We often care for others, but leave ourselves on the back burners. This pandemic and being sick has taught me to just slow down and to just be. My husband got me to start yoga outside at sunrise. I'm not an early morning person without my coffee, so this was a big deal. But the beauty of the dawn and the dew and feeling the grass between my fingers and toes and the sun on my face is just amazing. It has brought clarity to my thoughts and mental processing. I began to feel a change in myself. I was more at peace with myself. So I was less stressed at work and at home with my family and friends. My health improved. The lingering fatigue and issues I was having went away. I was healing my body, my mind, and my spirit. So I was not only surviving, I was thriving. St. Francis says, be who you are and be it well. So I see so many people living in fear and anger right now, and not being able to spend that quality time with our family and friends is affecting us all mentally. So, we all know we need sleep and hydration and healthy diets, but we also need quality time for ourselves and our friends and our families. So I ordered a bigger mat so my friends and family and neighbors can come join me for yoga at sunrise. I'll see how many people show up. It comes in today, actually. I also noticed as the big events like college graduation for my boys in my living room, Mother's Day without the big tradition of cafe détente that we have, went by without the usual fanfare, anniversaries and birthdays. It just became so overwhelming for me to even look forward into the future, and I wasn't enjoying anything. And so I decided to focus on the today and the now and short-term goals and what I could control. And so that I could enjoy that. So losing control while I was sick was huge, but it was also a blessing. This pandemic and being sick has changed my life for the better. It has changed my viewpoint. I'm going to embrace it instead of letting it cause more collateral damage. So I will slow down. I will just be. I'll dial in when someone is talking, but I'm also comfortable sitting in silence. I check on my friends, my family, and my neighbors more often. I have a new puppy that goes with me everywhere I go. His name is Stu, and I just had to lock him in the bathroom because he was in my face. I stopped watching the news, and I only listen to uplifting books and podcasts. I have a weekly Zoom faith group that is so supportive. So by giving time to myself, I am better prepared to help others. It is not selfish, it is imperative. Put your own oxygen mask on first. And if you don't already, get a family doctor, form a solid relationship, and take care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Didi. That's a really personal story, and I really appreciate you being so frank with us. It had to be difficult for someone so used to taking care of other people to have to take that step and let others take care of you. Next up, I would like to introduce Claire Cook, who's going to talk to us a little bit about moving.
Thank you, Kristen. Didi, I've never met you, but I feel like that was the perfect transition into this next segment. So it was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. So how do you bring awareness to a life of constant movement? You stop. And that's actually what happened to all of us in March. The whole world stopped, at least for a few moments, in a consistent, holistic way. And then things have kind of picked back up in small ways and big ways. I know personally, and from the people around me, I felt this universal sigh of relief at first, because I think we all were moving so fast and kind of unaware of that at the same time. And that sigh was kind of like when you get off of a really, really fast amusement park ride and you sort of have been wrapped up in the whirlwind of it, the joy, the thrill, the fear, and then you kind of get off and you're like, whoa, was that fun? Was that scary? Was that good? Was that, disorienting? And so that's definitely how I felt in March, right when this was all kind of transpiring. That being said, I had really been on that amusement park whirly ride for a long time. Running Basin Arts, nonprofit art center and dance company. And just last year, I had my first child. So like not even figuratively, but literally, my life requires me to be in constant motion, like teaching dance classes, running after a kid, moving from place to place. And so don't get me wrong, I'm definitely a mover through and through. Like it is an innate part of how I process and how I exist and how I meet other people. And I love thinking big, moving big, like mobilizing a big idea. All of that stuff is very natural to me and something that brings me great joy. But I think in March, when COVID required us all to stop, in the midst of that confusion and frustration and disappointment, I was really secretly, not so secretly because I'm telling you all of it, but like I was so relieved because it had become, my ride had become too much. Like it was just too much all at the same time of all beautiful, important things, but it was too much. And I didn't know how to stop it for myself. And the world in some ways gave me this challenging, but very like grateful gift of stopping. And in that moment, I slowed down long enough to remember, because it's so easy to forget, that we actually have the choice to move slow, but we just often don't take it, or we truly forget that it's even an option. And so once I remembered that, hey, okay, there's a lot of things right now that we don't have control over. We don't have control over health. We don't have control over each individual response to all of the different aspects of life that we're navigating right now in so many wavelengths. But we have control over the way we think about the world in our own mind and the way we feel about it in our own body. And so what I started doing, like in the spring, especially this was kind of like March, April, May specifically, when we were all really stuck, like the ability to even engage with a mask, like we were all just really stuck in our homes. I would put my daughter down for her morning nap and like fingers and toes crossed that she would actually take it, which most of the time it worked. And I cleared out my dining room, which became my dance studio because I was teaching movement classes from my house. And I would go and I would literally lay on the floor. And I set only a couple of rules and loose rules, but the goal was I could not schedule this time. I had to arrive at it from impulse, which meant that was really, really hard for me, because that meant if I thought about, oh, you know what, you need to connect your mind and your body, you need to be still, you need to be inside of your own space and your own body. The second that I thought about it, I had to do it. I couldn't return an email, I couldn't clean the dishes, couldn't even brush my teeth. So I wasn't seeing anybody anyway, it didn't matter. So I would put her down and then I would go lay on the floor, and the only task at hand was to be completely still. And inside of that space, I would listen. I would slow down my mind. I would let my body find stillness. And then the realization inside of that was that we're never really still, but the tiniest impulses, the tiniest bits of energy and weight shifts, that is where the magic is. And I started listening to it again. And I started reintroducing myself to my own self. And then the movements that came out of that, I only allowed them to come from an organic place. Or I didn't, like, it wasn't restrictive, but I would just lay and listen. And out of that arose some of the most beautiful, deep questions from myself, perspectives about how moving slow is actually moving fast. And I think something about the world that we're in now, that little phrase, slow is fast, sticks with me a lot, because it's something in which you don't always realize what you're moving towards until you look backwards. And I think this year, especially, like January seems so far away, but the fact that we're here now at the end of August, and even in the midst of a lot of things that we haven't had control over, I know personally, like, I have learned so much this year by doing something that is so slow. And so I don't know if I have like maybe 30 seconds left, but I'm just going to invite us all. You can leave your screen on, you can turn it off, but I'm going to invite us all to literally just sit still and listen to impulse. So wherever you are, you can close your eyes, you can leave them open. I'm going to close my eyes. Take a deep breath. Let it out. And just be. Allow your eyes to open up and appreciate how slow you can be even in 30 seconds. So thank you for listening. I send you hope and I send you patience. And I also send you Keeler Mitchell, who is the next speaker.
Thanks, Claire, for that beautiful, beautiful experience. I started my journey in finding my purpose after my father died a few years ago. I began asking myself some important questions in search of understanding my why. Why am I here? What is my purpose in life? What can I do to bring about change in the world I live in? Often in life, we're very clear about what we want to do and how we're going to do it. And I actually think that's the easy part. But it's when we understand our why, our purpose, that is when we are truly able to use our passion to fuel our efforts and move forward to achieve our goals. That clarity of purpose led me to launch Still Magnolias of Louisiana, a nonprofit organization committed to educating, engaging, and empowering girls ages 8 to 15 years old. Did you know that in the state of Louisiana, 25% of girls are living in poverty? 37% of girls are overweight, and we have the highest percentage of girls who feel unsafe in school. 60% of our girls reside in low-income households, and 75% of girls with low self-esteem reported engaging in negative activities like cutting, bullying, smoking, and drinking. 45% of girls are living in single-parent homes. When I think about the state of Louisiana and the state of girls in our state, the purpose and vision for Still Magnolias of Louisiana remains very clear to me. We must find ways to encourage our girls and move them from coping to hoping. Still Magnolias of Louisiana provides opportunities for women leaders to share their time, talents, and treasures with young girls in our community. We host monthly educational forums with our girls, inviting guest speakers to lead discussions on topics like goal setting, self-esteem, etiquette, human trafficking, effective communication, bullying, and so much more. We strive to provide girls with tools and skills needed to be successful in life. We want every girl, black, white, brown, rich or poor, from the south side or the north side, to understand and know their worth. We want girls to find their voice and become leaders who are destined for greatness. We engage our girls in community service opportunities so that they realize that they can do something to make a difference in their communities. We expose them to new experiences like the arts and ballet, creating lifetime memories for many of them. Strong girls become strong women, but they need our help. I invite you to think about 3 words. I see you. These 3 simple yet powerful words can connect us and make us feel acknowledged and validated. Little girls and women too need to be seen, and they must learn to use their voices to be heard. I see you helps us to be empathetic to others and recognize that their experiences have value too. But as Michelle Obama recently said, empathy is not just feeling, it is doing. Create opportunities to make a difference in a young girl's life. Go outside of your comfort zone and engage with girls and women who may not look like you or live in your neighborhood. Think about ways you can give of yourself to help others see the value in themselves. I see you, many of you out there, and I know that together we can help shape the next generation of women. We are strong, we are beautiful, we are resilient. When we know or feel or believe that we are seen, that we matter, we are able to move from coping to hoping.
Thank you, Keeler Mitchell. I see you, and I also love you. Thank you so much for all the good work you're doing in this community and on so many levels.
Thank you.
Next, we have originally from New Orleans, but today in Montana, Miss Lisa Tompkins Holden, and she's going to tell us about something really cool that some of you may know some about. And she doesn't have a lot of time to tell it, but she's going to do what she can in 4 minutes, and she's worked hard to get a lot of information in 4 minutes. So Lisa, take it over.
Thank you, Jan. I'm honored to be in the presence of all these amazing women. So imagine for a minute that you're in a very nice restaurant and you're having lunch with 3 of your friends, and thought bubbles are over their heads. There's a noise at the front door of the restaurant, and everybody looks up to see a very decrepit elderly woman is trying to get the door open while she's managing her walker. All eyes are on her. Your friend John's thought bubble reads, "Ah, a chance to be a hero," and he hops right up. My thought bubble says, "I better get up, because if she falls, an ambulance will have to be called, service will probably be delayed, and I'll either have to miss lunch or miss my 3 p.m. yearly evaluation with my boss." I rush to the door. Susie moves to get up, and her thought bubble says, "I cannot believe every single man in this restaurant is not on his feet. There are no gentlemen left. Where is chivalry?" Jane doesn't get up, and her thought bubble reads, "This is ruining the ambiance of this gorgeous lunch. I am so sad." So 3 people move to help this woman, and each is doing it for different reasons. Each one reacted virtually automatically, probably not aware of their thoughts, which is what we do most of the time. Something happens and we go down a rabbit hole, mostly unconsciously, and so often our reactions are self-defeating. We wonder why we keep getting in the same spot. The Enneagram may offer an explanation. So what is the Enneagram? Ennea means 9, gram means diagram. So the Enneagram is a circular diagram. It's an ancient diagram, itself is ancient, but using it as a personality tool is actually fairly recent, in the last century. It's a circular diagram with 9 distinct and unique personality types. There are connecting lines and other ways the numbers interact. And when you understand the diagram, you have a map of your internal landscape. This is a phenomenal gift handed to you on a silver platter. So your type is really the filter through which you view the world. Think of it as a film on your glasses. It's the way you see everything. And for the most part, it's unconscious. It's like breathing. So when you know the Enneagram, what it's going to show you is your patterns and your preferences. It's going to show you where you focus your attention and what you most avoid. All this is usually unconscious, and it brings it into focus. It shows us what stresses us and how we respond when we're stressed and how we respond when we're feeling safe. It's a unique system because unlike personality types like the Myers-Briggs and others, this one is based on motivation. It's why you do what you do. So in our example, John was motivated to be a hero. He wanted to look good. So sometimes that's great, but if that's all he's doing in life, he spends a lot of time trying to impress other people. I quickly scanned for what could go wrong, especially what would threaten my own safety and security, and then I took action to make sure that my security was not threatened. My job could be at risk if I missed my yearly evaluation. So I'm scanning, what do I need to do? And I'm up and at 'em. Susie got up because it was the right thing to do. So it was the moral thing to do. And she wondered why everybody else didn't react that way. Jane was concerned that the beauty of the experience was going to be ruined. And she longs for beauty and connection. And this was disrupting that for her. So some people say, I don't want to be a number because you are only one number on the Enneagram. It doesn't put us in a box. It actually gives us the key to get out of the box, unconscious. So it opens up choices. It does not box us in. The purpose of the Enneagram is really to enhance self-reflection and self-knowledge, and most importantly, compassion for ourselves and others, and to give us choice, a way out of those patterns that seem so deeply ingrained. It helps us to see that we all have fears and desires and areas of hurt that are not easily seen. So it's never used to psychoanalyze somebody else or to get one up on someone. So for me, knowing the Enneagram has helped me to see the role fear and the need for perceived safety and security plays in my life. It's always running. It's shown me specific ways to interrupt that pattern. It's in my own marriage, it's helped me to understand how my husband's need to protect our family motivates virtually every one of his decisions. Working with the Enneagram together has illuminated lots of unhealthy patterns in our relationship and has really given us a map to interrupt those and change them. One of the best parts is I have a daughter who's 35, and when she was 28, I learned her Enneatype. I had spent 28 years trying to understand her, and she seemed a mystery to me. When I understood the Enneagram, I understood her and still do in a way I never did before. So my hope is that you'll take a look at the Enneagram. In the resources, there are 2 ways to find your Enneatype, and I show you, I lead you to those 2. And so hopefully it will offer something for you if you're interested in it. Thank you, Jan, and the Advocate, for allowing me to be part of this. This has been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And Casey has just shared Lisa's resources in the chat, but we'll also, I believe, send those out to everyone who signed up for this little workshop. So thank you all. Now we're going to do something really fun. We're going to go into breakout sessions. It's an opportunity for you to share your takeaways with other people you may have never otherwise met. You know how that thing about I love to talk to strangers? I want everybody to love talking to strangers. Lisa, I need to do some work on the Enneagram so I can understand what it is about me. But you will be in this virtual room with 3-4 people, and you'll have about 9 minutes in the room in the breakout session. However many people are in your session, if you could just time accordingly to make sure that each person gets a time to chat and participate. And like I said in the beginning, don't wait to be picked. You know, this is just going to be self-managed. No one's going to be facilitating this except for you and the other folks in the room. And at the end of your session, you'll automatically be brought back into the larger room. To date, we have never lost a person yet. After the initial introductions, maybe someone can volunteer to manage time to move to everyone else in the room. The session may or may not show a timer. We're not sure about, I'm not sure about that. But if you want to exchange contact info with the people in your group, you can do so to help possibly hold each other accountable as about the decisions you want to make based on the presentations today. And the goal of the breakout session is to share with others the steps you plan to take to try something new and possibly meet new people who can help you be accountable. There's no right way to do this. We simply ask that you be kind, respectful, and do your best to encourage everyone in your group to share. We've not lost anyone yet. Speak from the heart and go forth. Have fun in the breakout. Without any further ado, we will bring on Miss Aileen Bennett, extraordinary creative woman that she is, and she'll wrap it up. So thank you guys so much. Aileen.
Hi, let's see if I can make this screen sharing happen. Oh, desktop 2. Share. We're getting a... As always, I seem to have done everything completely different to everybody else. So I am going to talk about how to stay creative when the world is uncertain. Oops, that didn't work, did it? Let's go back. How to stay creative when the world is uncertain. And the world's always uncertain. I have just been blown away by all the things that have gone on this afternoon. I have made so many notes. So, and I say, I do things a bit differently. So this week I learned how to make some gifts. So it's okay if your last few months have looked like this. The world around us changed really quickly. I know that there are gurus out there who told you this was the perfect time to learn new things, to bake bread, to tackle basic quantum physics, to learn how to make tiny furniture from acorns, to improve yourself, and of course, to be creative. Suddenly you had time, and you'd always promised yourself that if you had time, you'd paint, you'd write, you'd make a budget, you'd learn how to play the guitar. You may have already learned that time isn't the only thing you needed. It's hard to create when the world is a scary place, when your kids are suddenly home and your work has changed completely and no one knows what's happening next week. And if everyone is looking to you for answers, it's absolutely fine if your world looked like this. We expect so much of ourselves. We are meant to be creative all of the time, in all of our spare moments. Look at nature. We don't go and shout at trees when they don't have fruit all year round, or when they lose their leaves. Imagine if women went through something like that. There would be a supermarket aisle full of products for keeping your leaves longer and promising fruit all year. We need downtime. We need to be lazy sometimes. We're human. A day will come when you want to do more than rest, even if that just means doing some things to make yourself happy and connect with the world again, like a tree in spring with little buds. Okay, I promise that's the end of the tree metaphors. Do whatever it is that makes you come alive. Curate your social media with things that make you smile. Consider your Instagram an art gallery and delete all of those perfect party ideas from Pinterest. Watch, read, absorb whatever you want, whatever makes you happy. Go outside, anywhere. The fresh air will do your brain good. Listen to what you are telling yourself and keep walking until you're saying nice stuff. Move. Or don't move, as we heard from Claire earlier. Whatever works from you. Listen to the should-dos in your head fade and give yourself some grace. Get a notebook or the back of an envelope. Make lists, draw pictures, write a letter to yourself. Sit somewhere that makes you happy with your favorite drink and a pen. Whatever happens, happens. Start a project with a deadline so you have to do it. I said yes to this and then learned how to make gifts this week. Or pick something small that you can do every day for a week or a month. There are plenty examples online of words, lists of words that are prompts for daily exercises, or draw a flower a day, or play a song a day, take a photo a day. Choose something little. I promise that you'll feel more accomplished at the end of that week or month or longer. Play. You can play with a child if you let them be in charge. or without a child. Do something purely for fun. Having a child around is a great excuse for this, but I promise you don't need an excuse. The truth is, creativity isn't something you do, it's something you are. It's not missing, it's innately part of you. It's there inside you, and it will show itself at exactly the right time. So please know you're not stuck, you're growing, and this is what it feels like. You are staying creative, and times will always be uncertain. Thank you.
Thank you, Aileen. Thank you to everyone. We're grateful. We'll keep the meeting open for just a little bit in case you might need to get some of the names of books or emails or other information resources. But I know that there was one specific question early on regarding feng shui, and that was, where do you put the wind chimes? Cheryl, if you don't mind answering that one, you can take us out on that one.
The wealth area of your house, hung outside under the eave on that back left corner of your house. Orientation is from outside the front door, looking into your house, back left.
Okay. Thank you, guys. We're grateful for your presence. We're grateful for you being here with us, presenters, participants, everyone. Thank you. And again, we will leave it open a few minutes, but thank you. Mwah. Love all around.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
We're
you,
going to be
Jan.
sending out a link to this video. So if you had to miss part of it, or if you want to share it, we'll be sending out the link.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Hannah, I
Thank
love your hair up a little.